Hey guys, Jake with EC Leather. Real quick, check out the website, New Valet Trays, Lower 48. Get yours now.
Sponsored by Jake. Hey George, how you doing, brother?
I am well, George. How are yourself?
Well, pretty awesome. It's a good day to be a George. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Now, if people see you on Facebook or like on when you make comments like on the YouTube, it's not George Cubic. It's what tag do you go by?
It's Victor George.
So everybody needs to look for Victor George.
Yep, Victor George, spelled with a K, Viktor.
Okay.
George.
And then George.
Normal George.
We can work with that because I saw some of your posts and stuff earlier, and I was like, who is it? And then EJ's like, oh, dude, And then I looked up and saw some of the work you're doing. It's awesome. I don't know a lot about it, and then I saw that you had been on the cover of Shop Talk magazine.
Yes, yeah, that was a treat back in 2020 during their veterans issue. In November, Misty called me from Shop Talk and right out of the blue said, "How'd you like to do it?" And I said, "Sure." Great magazine. I've been reading Shop Talk and looking at it since it was back in the paper form, long before it was the Shop Talk.
When it was still the vet down in North Carolina.
Yes. Dan Preston.
Yeah, I never had the opportunity to meet him.
Yeah, it's a great publication.
Yeah. What's the first place that you go to in the magazine?
In a magazine?
Or in Shop Talk. What's the first thing you look at?
Probably the how-to sections, and then I go to the individual makers and read their whole story.
Yeah, I go straight to the hide reports.
Do you? I have not. I don't know if I'm smart enough to understand all of that stuff, but I very rarely read those reports.
You don't, believe it or not, you don't need to understand them. You just read them and then watch the world. Be appraised and watch the world. Be appraised and watch the world. And then sometime you're going to see something pop up and you're going to go, oh, this is familiar. Now I'm talking to some of those companies that generate that stuff, and we're going to do, how you get the farm reports?
Right.
I'm going to start reading those, get subscriptions to them, collate down the stuff. Then every week I will drop a nationwide and worldwide leather outlook podcast. To start with, I'm going to be really just kind of rereading the articles, breaking them down, and hopefully as I get a chance to talk to people a lot smarter than I am, I'll be able to do a little bit of analyzing and interpreting. But right now, it's just, going to be kind of reading them. But I want guys to be aware. So, for example, if you look at the last one that came out, now not the one that we're getting right now, but before that, they were showing Chinese luxury leather down 14%. Okay, so now what that tells me is as containers come back over and outbound stuff to the U.S., we're going to start getting some amazing fashion leather at drop dead pricing.
Yeah.
And then they have the U.S. Heavy Steer Outlook, every week, which I can pull that off the farm reports. So we know where our kills in the different countries are, and we can determine what percentage they're using of those kills for leather, and we can start to interpret a few things ourselves. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'd be definitely. I'm a student in this game, even after as long as I've been doing this. So I am always eager to learn anything, and that's why I was so excited when I met up with EJ, and he sort of opened my eyes to holsters and other methods, and that's how I found you.
EJ's a ball. I love to call that guy. And just. And since he works the nights, and a lot of times I'm rolling out stupid early in the morning, and then with the time change, I can harass him on his break.
Yeah. Now, great guy.
And Jake showed you this too, didn't he?
He did, and as a matter of fact, as soon as it hits your store, I'm going to get one since I'm in that great state.
I think it's up there. Is Arizona on the website? Yeah. There's a maker called he goes by Matt Putty on the Facebook, and he came to one of the classes, and he showed me this work he's doing. I'm like, wow, dude. And I said, Matt, you can make an impact on the leather world and never touch leather. And he's like, oh, bull hockey, can't be done, And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I want made, how I want it made. You make it, and I'll give you almost all the money. I'm just going to keep a little bit. He said, deal. And we're going.
Yeah, I saw on your one podcast where you have your logo on the inside. And what a brilliant idea. Any molds, as far as I'm concerned, in leather is wonderful.
Yeah, I think he's charging like $10 or $15 if you've got good, clean art.
Yeah.
To do that on your mold.
Yeah. Great idea.
Matt doesn't know where to charge stuff, so watch out if you're talking to him and he starts getting ridiculously low, and stop him and tell him where he needs to be. Because he's one of these guys that doesn't understand his own value.
Yeah.
So when did you get caught in this trap that we call leatherworking?
Well, back in the later end of the 1970s, I was a young E1 in the Air Force stationed in West Berlin, Germany. And they had an American rodeo contractor there that ran a small circuit rodeo called Rodeo USA, and he traveled all over Europe. And anyway, so I was a young 20-year-old athletic, and my family at the time were all Western cowboys and cowgirls, and I thought, since I was from Southern California, I needed to fit in. I got involved with the rodeo and couldn't afford the tack. A lot of the contestants and my friends gave me their used tack, and I started fixing it. And that's kind of where it started. I ordered some copper rivets, got some glue, some thread and needles, and because I'm a tinkerer, that's where the leather bug started. I became known as the tack guy. Everybody started bringing me their gear, and then I started making boot wraps for the rough stock riders and made them customized and personalized. And that's when I first realized that I'm making money with this. And that's where it started.
It didn't look back.
And it didn't look back. I just kept getting more tools. And I went from a kitchen table workshop to a little corner bedroom workshop into a full bedroom workshop, and finally got a full shop.
Andrew Callis at AJ Customs started in the closet. and his wife actually told him to come out of the closet. And his leather shop got turned into a pantry. So he had to go rent a shop.
Yeah.
For that reason.
I had to put all my tools away every time lunch was served or dinner was served, and it was a lot of fun. But that's how we all started, right?
Oh yeah, I had some advantages. My family's been leather workers since Christ was a corporal, and
I've heard that.
So I started out in the shop. My dad was the oldest of 13 boys.
Wow.
So you can imagine how many heathenish children are running around. And he was late at his age to get married to have me. So I had a lot of my cousins were older than I was, and all the boys worked in the saddle shop, and all the cousins, we were just terrorizing the place. My grandfather has never seen a kid he likes. Hates all of us, So you started out carrying hides to the tempering fridge. We had big walk-in reefer units that would hold it at 40 degrees because in Norfolk, Virginia, 5 minutes wet leather, it's picking up mold.
Right. Wow.
So we would do that. And then we got to where we do what we call normalizing, glass slicking entire sides, because that would take us time.
Wow.
And then, it might take two of us little heathens to carry it over the fridge. And then I moved up into rough cut, which we would deliver to the stalls, fenders cut and stuff like that. And then when you're ready to start tooling, every kid starts doing bar grounding, because it all looks like heck anyway. So put the new guy on it.
Right. And
then went from that to production carving, and had my fill of it.
Yeah, wish I had that kind of background. I had none. There was nobody that I knew for many years when I first started anything. Of course, I got all the books I could from Tandy Leather in the 70s, and I Boot and Harness Shop News, or whatever it was called back then. Whatever publications I could get, that was the only thing I had. Until I got a little bit older down the road, I was able to work in a saddle shop while I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, and Rodeo Parade Committee in Tucson, Arizona. I learned harness, and I've had a few fortunate mentorships in leather work.
And back then, someone had to be willing to bless you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if they didn't, you kind of went by the wayside. It was kind of hard. Stories people say about people putting sheets over their work if you walked into their room is legit.
There was nothing available. There was zero. I mean, I was faking it the whole way. And even just at the verge of when YouTube first started, that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody do anything similar, or just, it was wild to me. So for the first 15, 20 years, I was just making it up.
Yeah. And like I said, and reading books. So those of us in that period of time, I think, that were able to read a book, interpret it, and then build from there, we had an advantage, But now, so we got 3 kinds of adult learning. Are you familiar with them?
No.
Okay, so the visual learner.
Oh,
this guy's got it made. He watches YouTube. He's rocking. You know what I mean? Then we have the kinesthetic learner. He's got to be hands-on, And then we have a combination of the two, or the person that can read and then, do something. Yeah. So nowadays, how great is YouTube?
Yeah, fantastic. I'm definitely a visual and hands-on learner. If I can see something and then walk through it by hand, I'm good. And I can't read a book. I can't put anything from IKEA together. I have to see it done. So anyway,
so you started out doing tack.
I started out doing tack, rough stock, weaving the leather straps into a bull rope, repairing saddle bronc saddle if I needed to do anything that I could use in my little rodeo. I did bulls bareback, so I did some work on a used bareback rig. That's how it all started. And then it was the urban cowboy craze at the time.
1975, 76, 77.
Yep. Through the latter part of the 70s. And buck stitch Western belts became a thing. Everybody had them. I learned how to do some very, very poor carving. I was in Germany at the time. I'll tell you, as bad as I thought my carving was, the Germans loved it. They loved the Americana of the West. I tooled dozens and dozens of buck stitch belts, the name belts of the Western era. And so I did a lot of that while I was in Germany, and that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah, I at that point in time, I started putting some making the feather hat bands, because we're in Missouri, which is going to be quail and dove and all that. Right. We had the feathers, so I kind of got into that part of the craze of putting those things together. We take a thin piece of split and glue and stitch them down. I mean, remember how big they used to be?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did a lot of Western leather hat bands. I did those basically boot collar straps for the cowboys' boots. That's really all I did until I was stationed in Illinois, and then I got involved with firefighter gear, and then I started expanding my leather work since I had some basics down, and started making. Let me see, what year was that? That was in the 80s. Anyway, I didn't really start anything like knife sheaths until 91.
Really? Really? I
Yeah,
was about to say it's fairly recent, but that's what, 30 years, 32 years ago.
I know it's crazy, but I was stationed in Alaska, and no, I'm sorry, stationed in Illinois. And my dentist, in the military dentist, he found out that I did leather work, and I think I made him a belt or a couple miscellaneous things. And then he was a big hunter, and he says, "Have you ever made a knife sheath?" And I said, "Actually, I have not, and I think I can." So he gave me a couple of his custom knives. He was a lieutenant colonel, so he had money to buy some pretty knives.
Compared to
Some
us, yeah.
yeah, at that time. And so I made him some knife sheaths, and man, I tell you, it exploded. All his hunting buddies, I got so tight with him that that in the military they only do preventative care dental work, right?
Right.
So I had a little bit of a problem with one of my teeth being all crooked, but they would never fix it because it was cosmetic, and they didn't do that. Well, this dentist got so tight with me that he says, "Hey, I'll fix your teeth. You just keep making me sheaths." And so I got braces. And anyway, then I got involved with the Alaska Knife Makers Guild, and started doing.
Did you transition into making knives?
No, never did. The closest I ever got, George, was to buy knife blanks and put handles on them.
Okay.
And but then a leather shop and a knife shop, just I never had that big of a shop where I could join the two of them. Too much metal dust, and I left that up to the.
But how many current leather workers do we have now, and holster makers, that started out as knife makers and were unable to get a sheath, and then they started doing it and found out that they really loved leather. They may keep making knives or not, but they became leather workers from that skill set.
Yes, yeah. One that comes to mind. I don't know him personally, but in the I think it might have been back in my Alaskan days. His name's Sigma Knives.
Okay.
I did a series. He had these four beautiful knives that he had encased in a glass box, and I did all 4 sheaths for him.
Okay.
And then we sort of lost track after I went to another assignment. And from what I understand, from what I've seen recently, is he does all his own sheath work now, and it's amazing, stunning work.
Have you done any sword scabbard work?
I have not. I've done machete cases, sheaths. I've done big old brute knives, but never a sword. No.
We got to play with that. Because how cool would that be? We do tortured wood construction and then put the leather over it, and you know what I mean. Do some what a lot of our people would call like a high emboss, but would be called repoussé in that world. You know what I mean? Do that combined with carving. How cool would that be?
It would be cool. Did you happen to see EJ's K-bar sword?
Oh, well, see, that rotten son of a gun. I had it first. Jake got me one of those a few years ago for Father's Day. So what we have around here is it's the arm chopper competition. Okay? It's got to be the biggest, most obnoxious, most useless blade possible, right? And then the winner is the guy that gets the most obnoxious one for the cheapest. So that's the big scam. But where's mine at? No, that's not my K-bar one. That's Jeff's evil. Jake's sitting there pulling out competitors. So,
I think it's somewhere.
Like I said, we get the most ignorant thing we possibly can.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And then we never make a sheath for it because we're dorks.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool stuff. When he showed me that one, it was like I've done sheaths for K-bars. I've probably done several hundred K-bar sheaths. Never seen one that way. That was cool.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple things. So the K-bar sheath, okay. A lot of people have got granddad's old K-bar.
Right.
Yeah, or dads or whatever, and they don't have that sheath anymore. So, do you build some sheaths along that line? Because like that, what we build every once in a while is a buck knife sheath for like the skinners. The two fixed blades.
Yeah, the
And
119.
right, and we build those primarily because we're trying to give that person back their legacy from their grandparents. The knife sitting in a drawer. Let's get it back on in the field.
Yep.
And so that I love that buck. That full wrap that comes around and snaps there and all that. Is that something that you do? Is kind of replicate that to give them back their legacy, and also with the K bars as well?
I have done a lot of reproduction K-bar to replicate the actual issue K-bar sheath. I've done a lot of the Air Force pilot survival knife.
That had the stone on the front, right?
That had the stone. As a matter of fact, I've done so many of those because I did 20 years in the Air Force, and everybody loved those. Those were I came in 1974, so all my supervisors were Vietnam vets, and they all came back with those pilot survival knives.
Absolutely.
And through the years, I've done so many of those reproduction to match the original sheath with the stone pocket. And very cool. I love that kind of stuff. Very much. Have you
done some YouTube tutorial videos on making that pocket and stitching it onto a sheath?
I am. It's funny you mentioned that, George. Just a couple of months ago, and I think you probably had a little influence in that, because when I first found out about you, I literally studied every single one of your YouTubes.
God help me. I'm sorry.
No, you have to understand that I'm a leather guy who tries to make holsters. I'm not a holster maker. So between EJ and you guys, I started watching and learning, and I'm getting excited because it's a whole new world for me. But back to the see, that's how my brain pings. So I went off on
okay. I pinged too. So we were talking about that pocket to hold the stone on front of it, and I know a lot of people. I mean, so let's look where else they could use this. Say the guy's making a pool cue case. That pocket that he would hold his cues in, or his chalks.
Chalk,
so what a huge skill, just forming that pocket and stitching it onto some other piece of leather. Is that something that you've done before or taught people?
Quite a bit, actually. Getting back to your YouTube question, I'm with you now again. A couple months ago, I started doing a YouTube channel, just something to entertain myself, and I thought I'd come up with this thing called Knife Sheath School to show the very basics of how I draw a pattern. Not that my way is the right way, it's just the only way I know how to do it. And I started showing that, but talking about attachments. So this is one
right there. That right there.
Yeah. Yep. So this here comes from Alaska. When I was there, everybody hunted, and once this dentist and I hooked up together with all his friends and the Knife Makers Guild, I could not make enough of these stone pouch. At that time, the popular thing was the brass rod that you unscrew, and then you would sharpen it. It was basically I can't remember the name of it.
It had a little ceramic rod in it or something, or steel?
Ceramic. No, it was kind of like a diamond steel. And you would unscrew it from the brass rod and turn it into itself, and then you would and then just use that as a sharpener. So those were attached to to the side of the knife sheath, like this ferro rod is. And but anyway, I got into these diamond, and the nice thing about this one is you have to take the knife out to get that out. So I use a lot of the
knife is the securement for
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
well, I'm going to tell you, this whole knife sheath school thing you're thinking about, call Misty at Shop Talk. I just got back from Salt Lake City filming another series. They have a product called Illume Adelaide. Are you familiar with that?
I wasn't until I watched the podcast with you and Eric.
We filmed that at studio.
Yes, that never heard of them before until that.
Well, what she's going to want is we don't want to get so much stuff up that people can't ingest it. Does that make sense? So
Yes,
you'll start with a primary knife sheath. And in the beginning, you're going to do patterning, do all that, and then take a variation of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you make a belt knife sheath, and then you add a dangler to it or something, you know what I mean? And show the people the patterning, things you're concerned about, things
Yep.
of that nature. But then you want to have 3 to 4 more projects that are not full-length projects. They're going to be much shorter. So, for example, I guess coming out over the period of the whole year, we did our Avenger, which EJ builds, I think on our Avenger platform. And then I did
Yes.
a variation of a Snap Venture. Have you seen those?
I have seen them all.
Okay.
I have seen them.
So then we did the variation of the Avenger called the Snap Venture. Then I did unlined monolithic gun belts, 8.5 ounce, 8.5 ounce, double stitched.
Right.
Then I did a lined and reinforced 6 ounce, 6 ounce gut belt. And then I did a Ranger belt. And then I did Andrew Callis's snap mag, single snap mag.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did a rifle sling.
Yeah, very cool.
So that was 3 days, 10 to 12 hours a day, filming. And then they have a lady down in Louisiana. Her name's Rachel. And she takes what you and I would make as a YouTube video, which for me at least, it's more of a build along, with me chatting a little bit, or even when I'm patterning. If you saw my patterning videos, I'm drawing a pattern. I'm just kind of describing what I'm doing. But
Right.
she has an education background,
Mm-hmm.
and she turns it into an actual curriculum.
Wow.
How
Yeah.
cool is that?
That is very cool. And this is Misty at Shop Talk?
Misty is in charge of so Misty and Braden own Shop Talk magazine.
Right.
Really,
right.
Misty owns Shop Talk. Braden is Burns 1888 saddlery, the oldest saddlery in America. That's
Yep.
them.
Yep.
And then they do the $1 million shootout, barrel racing. They own like 9 companies.
Yeah.
And Misty
Nice.
is an absolute dynamo. So if you talked with her, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I got the pleasure to meet her at the Prescott Trade Show just back in February. Just a wonderful, wonderful person.
November, guess what else Misty owns? Pendleton.
Oh, wow.
And we went there last year. So we'll visit. You're coming to
Yes.
Pendleton, brother.
Yeah, that sounds great.
1st of November, I'll forward some emails to you. Guys, the Pendleton Leather Show is a show with a lot of history. Pendleton, Oregon's at the bottom of Cabbage. Hamley Saddleries in Pendleton. The show's got a lot of history, and these guys are just building it up. There's saddle competitions, all kinds of stuff like that. Lots of classes. So we found it a great opportunity for us to do in-person teaching. Like a lot of the classes are Herman Oak provides all the leather. Leather Machine Company brings down all the equipment, just like all the other shows.
Right.
So what an awesome opportunity, and they feed the heck out of us.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. Definitely send me that stuff because I've been wanting to take some classes. Back to EJ. He lives 80 miles away from me. Have been to his place a few times, and it's kind of like school for me. I never did well in school, but now that I'm older, I love it. I love learning. So that's absolutely wonderful. I can't wait.
EJ told me about something. I don't know if you're willing to share it right now.
Sure.
But walk me through this rare earth magnet locked in knife sheath.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
that's just too sweet to believe. Okay, so
Yeah.
there we go. I've got a double welt. So
Yeah.
it's a scabbard design, not a taco.
very basic scabbard design, yeah. And I got 2 rare earth magnets
Where?
inside.
Where?
The magnets that I use are these badge magnets.
Okay.
And
But
they're
before I forget, can I give you a suggestion?
Oh, please.
Write this down. A company called KJ Magnetics.
KJ Magnetics. Okay.
Yes, sir. They're like super science magnet nerds.
Okay.
You can tell them what you're doing, and then they will define it. Their page gets into hardcore science, and but you can call them and say, "Okay, I'm a redneck that cuts leather. I've got this many ounces. I believe if I swing it, I'm gonna, I've got, this is a 12-ounce knife. I believe it gets swung, it can experience as much as 5-6 pounds of pressure, and this is the room I got in the thickness that I have. What do I need?" And they'll say this product.
I'll definitely do that, because when I was first contemplating this idea, so this particular welt is just shy of about a half an inch,
Okay.
And then I have
The welt is, or the total thickness with the welt?
That's with the sheath face, that's with the back, and then I sandwich two of these. So I have a total of 4 rare earth magnets.
All right, where they go?
So they're kind of sandwiched in between 2 thin pieces of edge tan, and they go in between. They become part of the sheath. So if you can see in there, I don't know if you can see.
Okay.
Back panel, it rests on.
I do.
The magnets are in that. They don't touch the knife blade. They're recessed into the leather, and they hold absolutely wonderful. So the plan with that was, to eliminate the safety strap. And I've done those, for, okay, all kinds of scabbards. And it's just something I'm playing with, the idea. I don't know yet the results of if they get wet. I don't know.
It should not hurt them at all. Well, no.
It couldn't, yeah. But anyway, that was a fun project. I did do my first knife sheath school on the process that I used.
Okay.
And
so that's on your YouTube.
It is on my YouTube on how I use the magnets. And
so
I'm
going to ask Jake in the bottom. Of course, we're going to put all your contact information, right? But that particular video, the magnetic knife sheath, I wanted to directly link that one, because I think that there's so many creative people in this craft.
There are. Absolutely.
I think we're going to see, it's going to take this idea you had, and we're going to see some amazing things happen. What do you think?
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's under the Viktor George YouTube, and it's Knife Sheath School Volume 1.
Great. So now, on the knife sheaths, the problem that I always run into is a production shop. Yeah. Okay? Unless it's a commercial knife, they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
That
is a problem.
So if you're truly a custom maker, this is absolutely a part of the craft that you can thrive in, isn't it?
It is. I'm an old retired guy that basically builds what I want. I do about 5 custom sheaths a month. I build a lot of inventory. For other goods that are sold in a little community antique shop, thrift shop, resale store. I live in a little 1 traffic light town in southwest Arizona, and that's kind of where everybody goes to find unique stuff. But I make 1875 replica wallets for the reenactors, cowboy action shooters, and Civil War enthusiasts. And so that's kind of what I do. I build inventory, 5 customs a month, and then in the evening I do my YouTube, which, by the way, Volume 5 Knife Sheath School is going to have a pouch for a stone. So
we're gonna get that what I just asked about.
Yes.
And you're gonna show how the knife actually locks the stone into place.
Yeah. And this particular one, I don't currently have any of that. It does have a snap cover for it. So it may not be necessary that the knife act as the lock. Now on this one here, that I showed you, that's just a fold over taco sheath.
Well, that's a split toe, because it folds over and then down towards the toe.
Yes, correct. Because of the shape of the knife. but the other one is going to be more of a pouch sheath that's just going to have a pocket with a flap and snap on it. Let me look over here at my other stuff. I do not have one available, but anyway, that's in the works. And I've always liked accoutrements on a knife sheath. I spent 7 years in the wilds of Alaska hunting and fishing, and I always liked the fact that I had a sharpening stone and a ferro rod on my knife sheath wherever I went. So that's I kind of like that.
So are most of your knife sheaths in your style, is it dedicated to the outdoorsman versus the guy carrying it as an EDC self-protection type?
Yeah, I don't do any concealed daggers for EDC protection. I'd say 99% of all my sheaths are used out in the field. I do a lot of cowboy action stuff, which is a lot of times more of a prop, like this style.
So let's see the back of that.
That's a Mexican double loop skirt.
No fake. How cool is that?
And then this little guy. So these are, they are sheath knives, but they're for the cowboy action shooting crowd. So,
what do you do for like a patch knife for the muzzle loaders?
Yeah, I haven't got into the muzzle loader crowd. I have gotten into the bushcrafters, so I do a lot of belts that go a lot of times over their jacket, and then they carry their little keepers and pouches, and so no muzzle loader crowd for some reason, probably because I don't know anything about muzzle loading.
But now that bushcraft carrying that way, like we have a new line that we're getting ready to come out with. Well, when I say getting ready to, it'll be winter before I do, after Pendleton. And we, as holster makers, when we see a 2-inch belt and a retention style holster going on, we really think of copper gear, law enforcement, duty gear. And I'm looking real hard at what I do when I'm going out and I'm cutting wood, or I'm Dr. Cattle or stuff like that. And I do the same thing. I take a 2-inch belt. I either put it over my pants. It's already got my holster on it, already got all my tools on it. And then I have keepers that are actually stitched onto the belt. We just bring them around. And that way I just take it off, throw it in the pickup when I'm done, or something of that nature. So we're going to design some patterns like that to be available for those guys.
That's wonderful. Yeah. When I come out, we're going to take a little road trip and into July, August timeframe, and Springfield Leather is one. And I was talking to Jake. I'm going to call you guys up, see if you're in the shop, and we're going to visit, buy a bunch of stuff from you because of what I'm wanting to do with the holster part of my business here in the near future.
On the knife sheath stuff, end of June. Not the last weekend, but right before that, and I'm not sure the dates. David Peterson of Peterson Custom Leather in Kaufman, Texas. So he's about 30-40 minutes east of Dallas, southeast of Dallas.
Okay.
We're going to have Knife Sheath-a-Palooza.
Oh, wow.
David is a production guy, and he's a knife sheath guy. Generates between 300 and 500 sheaths a week.
Oh, is this the gentleman that you podcast a couple weeks ago?
Yes, I did. So, but we're gonna have. I guess it's open to anybody that wants to go. Get a hold of Dave. Okay, if you're interested, go to Dave Peterson's Peterson Custom Leathers podcast and get a hold of him. But we're gonna get as many wild-haired maker friends of ours as we can. I think we got like a dozen right now. He's got over 140 clicker dies.
Yeah, I was blown away when I listened to that show because, compared to what I do,
we're going to try to see how many knife sheaths we can build in 2 days.
Yeah,
and his boys making barbecue.
Yeah.
Why not? It'll be fun. I got I think Tito and Joe Lopez are coming up out of the Red River Valley. We got Andrews coming up. I've got guys in Tennessee coming down to it, all over the country. We're just all gathered at Dave's place. And we're just going to have fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast.
So if that sounds like something you're interested in, hey, come on down, brother. You know, we're gonna have a ball.
I was blown away by that episode, and it's just unbelievable what he does. And
I'm actually
yeah,
gonna twist this camera around because I'm falling out of my chair trying to stay in the screen, so that's better. I got kicked it earlier and threw it to the side. But so we're going to do Night Sheaths May 25, May 26. Go to a website called Auction Zip.
okay,
And James Cox is the auctioneer.
okay.
Now, he always did a spring auction over by Pennsylvania, by the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania. And he's decided to quit going there. He talked to Springfield Leather. They opened up their off-site warehouse for him to hold the auction in. And we're going to have a 2-day leather auction. Leather all the first day and equipment, going to be on Friday. So it's a Thursday, Friday auction.
Wow.
And it's going to be, I think Herman Oak has sent down 400 sides.
Wow.
Sides of what? We don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, because they'll send down bridle and harness and veg, and hopefully some of that waterproof leather. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds fantastic. I've never heard of that. I always get my supply at the trade shows, the 4 with the Southwest Leather trade shows.
This is gonna blow you away, brother.
I can imagine, yeah. And I'm kind of old school. I like going through each hide. I like picking them out. I don't buy 10, 15 rolls at a time.
That's what you'll do at an auction. You'll be picking them out.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
it's going to be like we're going to bid per side, choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the highest bidder, he's going through. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then if anybody else wants to buy at that price, great. If not, auction starts up again. Highest bidder there.
Gets the next. Yeah. That's a great idea. That's wonderful.
Now, with us being 3 hours from Herman Oak, we ship. I mean, I'm going to have at that auction a bunch of our EDC holster prep. You know. So, we're going to do that. But, what's your carry gun?
Mine?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have 2 actually. I have the Glock 19.
Glock 19.
New. I've got optics on it, and then that's a good concealable. I always carry appendix. I've been carrying appendix for as long as I can remember. And then I have it's a little Ruger LCP that I use for when I'm really kind of like in shorts or really dressed down and I can't
Pocket
conceal it. Yeah, I do carry an appendix as well, but it is a pocket gun. Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll take one of our Avengers in a 0 degree for a Glock 19. And it's cut pretty deep for your optics already. You might have to trim just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
But it'll give you an OWB Avenger style. You roll that thing right up at your 2 o'clock on the outside of the waistband. Drop your jacket or your shirt over it. It might give you an option, but you can also slide that thing back to strong side because I know you're open carry state. And when you're out creeping around in the desert doing some kicking around trying to find some mineral, you know, this might be a good solution. But it'll also get you a chance to build off of one of our clicks. I'll just send that to you, and that way you can play with it and have fun. You've seen the videos. You know how to put it together.
Love it. I'm like a kid. I got a paper and pencil and I take notes and I rewind and watch it twice. But when I'm out in the desert, out in the field, I carry a Taurus G2C. It's definitely a low end gun, but
if you lose it, who cares?
Exactly. And I don't know how many rounds I put through that thing. It has never misfired. It's reliable.
You want to know the cool thing?
Huh?
The same piece of leather that I send you will fit the Taurus G2C and the Glock 19. What defines a holster is stitch line.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And then you're going to cut it off to length. Now, the other thing that defines the firearm for this kind of build is so if you hold up your firearm or put them on top of each other, okay? A triangle formed by the ejection port, the face of the trigger, and the magazine release. Look at that as a triangle, okay? You'll find that in the 1 series where you'll see like 55 or 60 patterns, that
Mm-hmm.
triangle is the same.
Mm.
But now
Yeah.
you go to like a 1911, that triangle is entirely different because now where a Glock, you're like this size right here, right?
Right.
Now you get to a
Right.
1911, that trigger is way back here, and now you're
Yeah.
requires a different shape of leather.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what's been fun, George, is just learning all of this now. I used to, I've never built holsters like this before. Everything that I have done is, this is an ugly example, but this was a chest rig and it wasn't formed. I basically took a piece of paper around the, I think this was that, I forget the model, the 410
Governing
Judge.
governor or judge, yeah.
Judge. I just took a piece of paper, wrapped it around the gun, started marking where my stitch line should be, and that's from the old ways, and now I'm just like super excited to learn these new methods, and so that's what I want to do eventually. I think I told you on the phone last time. I went ahead and got a 12-ton press. I got the gum rubber. Again, thanks to EJ for uh, piecing all this out for me. And then with your, I bought a lot of patterns from you of what I thought at the time were popular guns, and I've got the blue guns coming in. So I'm just going to build these holsters and then sell them through this shop. No custom work. Not at that level, but I think with my leather background, I think I can come up with a good build, and especially with the fact that you've already engineered them.
So
So
I want
when
you to look at this here, okay? Now think about that adventure holster we were just talking about, right?
right,
So you know that the shape comes up like this, right?
correct.
I want you to build that slavishly. You're never going to learn more than getting into another maker's head than building his pattern and then going, why in God's name did he put that there? What was he thinking? You sort of mean? But
Mm-hmm.
look at this skill set you have right now, okay, of working with a welt.
Right.
So we're going to do 8.5, or 8/9 leather, right?
Right.
Then we're going to slap 12 ounces of welt in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you bring it down a little. Yeah.
I'm going to get
Oh,
it out to where nobody else can. Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
That's all right.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
So look at this holster here. Put a belt tunnel back here. Put a thumb brake on it,
Right.
and that's ready for the desert.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful.
And it's ready for everybody else in the desert. But that you built for that judge, okay?
Yeah.
And there's like 3 or 4 of them out or whatever. What a
Mhm.
great snake gun!
Yes. Yes.
And that's an issue you have down there.
Yeah.
They're absolutely there. So you could very rapidly use your skills on welting, okay? And it doesn't need to ride as high, right? So what if
Correct.
instead of putting a belt tunnel for an EDC, what if you built it down a little bit and almost did that little a single or double loop down?
Yep.
So
Uh-huh.
pull that knife sheath up again that you had with the
With this.
with
With
the
the
double.
sharpener?
No, the double loop, like the little
Oh.
B movie.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at that.
Yeah.
How cool could that be, brother?
Yeah. I'm telling you, absolutely.
But on that revolver, you're going to run a safety strap down, okay? And,
Yeah.
and the problem you're going to see, number one, I want the safety strap to hit right here,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just a hair below, okay? And that's where your strap's going to do. But then your strap is going to extend this far, another inch or two, okay? Everybody makes these short snaps, and if you're wearing gloves, your hands are cold or hot and sweaty. You're trying to sweep up with the whole hand.
Right. Right.
Break that safety strap. Does that make sense?
Yes. Uh-huh. And,
But-
and go ahead, George. I'm sorry.
But I mean, you take this concept and take the skill set and the knowledge that you have, and you know how leather moves. That's a big part of our training, guys, is teaching people how leather moves. You already know that.
Yeah. And the temper and all that good stuff.
And
Yeah.
you know your welting and all that. Man, I look forward to seeing some pretty amazing stuff from you.
I'm super excited. It's a whole new venue for me, and Yeah, I'm stoked. Absolutely.
Now you showed me some knife sheaths earlier. One of you said this is Scout style.
Um, okay, so these that I have here were either problems and I've kept them, or I went ahead and built a
Pull that back a
salesman.
little bit. Pull it back just a little bit. There you go.
Okay, so that's that, and then on the back side, I added a removable. So you can carry Scout, or you can carry vertical.
I'm So they would go horizontal on the belt, or
Yes,
or
or
as a vertical carry. Show me that piece.
with
What a brilliant idea!
yeah, it's
Now
nothing
those
more.
two straps, how are they attached to that holster or
These
sheath? I'm sorry.
these are sewn on. My next ones are going to be Chicago screwed.
Now where would you Chicago screw them?
I would Chicago screw them probably right here where the sewing goes, and I think I would just feel a little bit more secure. So the stitching would just go up to where the Chicago screws, and then I'd stitch in between, and the Chicago screws would be where the sewing is right now. But it is a great carry sheath. It rides real nice.
I think that you're super strong with the stitching. I don't believe you're going to gain any advantage Chicago screw because it's going to come unscrewed.
You know,
Heat cold, heat cold, heat cold.
yeah, George, it's interesting you say that because I've had a few other people tell me that same thing, and I was just concerned. I'm confident of my stitch strength, but I'm also thinking the Chicago screw. But you are right, and only time will tell. With a couple of these that I put out in the
I would
field.
take the front panel of that thing there before you stitch it.
Uh-huh.
Right? I would run a double stitch right there, just like you have in the sheath,
Right.
down to there. Then I would come back and run my double stitch and just hit the same holes again. Does that
I
make
see.
sense? I
Yes.
think it would
Uh-huh.
be attractive.
Right.
It would be because you got to keep it open in the back. You can't just take a stitch because that would narrow down your slot too much.
Correct. Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Gives me all kinds of fuel for creativity. It's just, the nice thing about this style of knife, which I like, it has that little half guard, and it locks. Nice little
I
cam.
know that sound. That's cam lock.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so I
I
had a problem building for knives that had the brass bolster, the cross guard, and it may stick out that far from the blade. And trying to build a knife sheath that didn't go wonky, pulling back. How do you resolve that?
Are you talking about a half guard?
Well, no,
No.
no, sir. More like the buoys where it sticks out from the blade. So I think you
Oh,
had a little buoy there.
yeah. No.
Yeah, let's look at that. Let's look at that one right there.
Okay.
Does that cross guard stick out from the side of the scales?
Of the Yeah, I'm not sure, George. I know that
So
this is just.
pull it out a second. Yeah, see, so I got a knife blade, right?
Huh?
Then I got a cross guard,
Right.
and it's wider on each side, out,
Right.
but it's also wider on the width of the knife blade. And when I
Yes.
try to build a knife sheath, I'm doing like my knife's all bent over, trying to. How do you avoid that?
Well, what I do is I sandwich the face and a back piece, and the knife goes in there. So, give me 1 second, George. So, for example, sorry about that. So, for example, on this one right here.
Yes.
So, what I do is I
Oh,
have
you build a thickness of leather
yes,
against there. Now, does that just taper off and skive down as it goes into the sheath?
yes, yeah. It's just skives down, and then this big area right here keeps that
Sits
knife blade.
true.
Yeah, so it doesn't dig into the back of the sheath. It's kind of like this magnet one here.
Yes, yes.
It has that little shelf. I call it
Okay.
a shelf.
Yep. And then
And
that skives down too, right?
yes, and then that keeps the guard away from the back strap and doesn't dig in and eventually get that big
That big curve and go. So the next thing we have to ask every sheath maker, because you do nice thick welts.
Yes.
How do you do your edges, brother? Talk to us about edges, because everybody that watches this, a knife sheath maker, wants to know the solution. You're in the desert. Your knives are made to be working tools to go out there,
Right.
and take a beating. What do you do for your edges?
Well, the first thing that I do is I take the excuse me, I take the raw edges and I start with I think it's a 60 grit flap sander, and then I just true up the edges, and then I'll take a 120 grit flap sander and I'll clean it up, and then the rest of the process is hand 220, 400, 600. Usually for field work, I'll stop at 600 to 800 grit, and that gives you a nice smooth edge. Of course, I use a big edger to get a nice rounded effect.
Using a saddle edger, what?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, so you're using a saddle edger, so what, number 4 or something?
Yeah, I have a bunch of old ones that aren't compatible with the modern numbering, but the wider the tooth, the better.
Bruce
And
Nelson is my friend.
what?
Not Bruce Nelson. Bruce Johnson.
Bruce Johnson. Yes.
We like Gomp edgers.
Yes. I have some no-name ones, but I bought them from Bruce, and I just love the nice rounded effect that you get. And then once that edge is slick from the 800 grit, then I usually dye it. And while the dye is still moist in the edge, I take a canvas rub rag that has been impregnated with beeswax and paraffin, and I just rub it. I love a waxed edge, and then I just rub it until it's slick and smooth, and I'll put another coat of dye on if I need, and I'll redo it, add a little bit of a cake. And sometimes if I'm doing a bunch of them, I'll use that Brilliant wax, Yankee wax.
I prefer that, especially in the desert. I would. It's a much higher temperature wax.
It is.
The problem is I use canvas on our bars, but we're pushing 3,400 RPM to get a good drive. And starting out in saddle and harness work, that's how we protected the edges of outdoor gear, and it stays flexible.
Right.
I've never been really happy with beeswax. Paraffin, I think, is a little bit better. Now, we did a dirty trick on paraffin before. You might want to try this.
Okay.
You know your white gas for camping?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Start dropping, put a gallon or 2 gallons of white gas in a bucket. Start throwing hunks of paraffin in and stir it up. The white gas will dissolve their paraffin. That's how we make down and dirty harness. Drop your leather in there and let her soak overnight and pull her out. Hang it up, take a baseball bat and knock the extra wax off of it. And you got poor man's harness.
I'll be darned.
Leave her out a day or two and the gas will go away,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now I do something with, can't even remember the 3 ingredients, but I use, I'm getting old. It just loses me, but beeswax, some other chemical, and sorry, George, it'll come to me when I'm not thinking of it. But
tonight,
anyway,
middle of the night.
yeah, you put it on your leather and you wipe it in, and you can literally hold it underwater, and it won't be affected at all by moisture. So, but anyway,
awesome.
I love the wax. I do put quite a few layers on there, and when I'm using the Brilliant wax, the Yankee wax, I have a finishing machine, and it makes it really easy and super hard, and it comes in all colors.
Yeah, we just use black and clear because we're never going to match a dye. You know what I mean?
Correct. You're right.
And even on holsters, so when we do the wax edge, and then you've seen we dip the acrylic, what you may not have seen is 3 or 4 times during the process of that acrylic curing, because it doesn't dry, it cures. We'll pull that out of there very carefully. We'll take some deer antler. We'll just start stropping that edge a little bit to slide it right back in. The acrylic's still plasticky, and you can move it.
I learned
holsters.
I learned that from you. I didn't know that at all. I just thought you were putting a sealer on there. I didn't realize it was part of the hardening process. And I'll be honest with you, there's a gentleman named, I hope it's okay I say his name, but sure. David Prince.
What was his name?
David Prince.
David Prince. I get a quick little story, a little 7 degrees of separation. David Prince was in Homeland Security, and he was a big high muckety muck. One of our students here, and a guy that really just works with us a lot, is Billy Melton, and David Prince was his supervisor, got Billy involved in leather work. Billy came down to do learn holster design, holster making. I've never met Mr. Prince, but I've heard just story after story about him. And his whole family is artists.
Yeah, I think his brother's like a forging knife maker or whatever, but 10, 11, 12 years now, when I first found him on YouTube, he just did half a dozen YouTube clips, and that's the first time I'd ever seen somebody dip a holster in acrylic Resolene like you do. And then he had this drying box that he put it in, and that's the first I'd ever seen that. Of course, through the years, I've replicated that. But anyway, that's where I first saw that, and I didn't realize it was part of the drying process. I didn't realize until I learned that from you, as far as it needing to cure. I know that you needed to leave it be, but I didn't understand the science behind it.
It's little platelets of plastic in an emulsion. And then as the plastic cures, and now we get into science words that I don't understand, they interlock kind of like your blood clotting.
Yes.
So I know a lot of guys that are very, very, very successful diluting their acrylic sealer. And it may be different from brand to brand, but we don't dilute Angelus. But when I was with Eric last week, he dilutes his Phoebings 50-50. Right, beautiful finish, beautiful hardening. I'm not seeing any brittleness from it. Maybe the Resolene is thicker or something than the Angelus.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never used Angelus other than other products like their balm and Atom Wax. But I learned that from you. And like I said, that's just good stuff. And then that drying box, I've heard you talking about a drying box. I have one for the monsoon season here in Arizona where nothing dries.
Nothing,
because of the humidity. So I love having that available to me. And good stuff. Good stuff.
Now we use, we run on the high end of temperatures. Garrett, who's my business partner and primary production, I draw pictures, drink caffeine, and drop the F-bomb a lot. That's what I do. Garrett and Jake and Jeff do all the building, and Garrett's got his timing down to, a science. So when things go in and out of the hot boxes, we actually run 4 heating elements in a small kitchen cabinet because we're in and out and in and out and in and out. And Garrett will push 118, 122. I don't suggest that. I think 110 is where you need to top out at. But the key to that's moving air in there as well. So the 110, I think we did a video on it, or maybe it wasn't very good. We'll do another one. But those V-Link controls, we built the whole hot box for $80.
Yeah. Actually, I wrote that down when I'd heard that from your podcast. I had used a little fan from a computer.
That's what 120 millimeter, 110 volt fan.
Right. And then I think I used just like a chicken warming lighter, kind of a hatch light or whatever they're called.
I'd like to get you away from that, and I want you to go to what we call the lizard heaters. So they're the ceramic infrared. There's no light that comes out. They're either white or black, in 60 watts. The reason why is the light bulb with the radiant energy of the light. If
Right.
you'll notice, any metal on your product superheats, and it can burn the leather. Okay.
Yeah.
Those deals won't do it.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. I will take a look at that. I know that my light is far enough away from the leather itself. The fan circulates the heat, but I agree that when I do touch the metal hardware, it's still too hot for the touch. So that's something to change.
Yeah, leather is skin, and your hands are covered with skin, and
Right.
if it's burning your fingers, it's damaging your leather.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
So-
you're right.
What we'll do is I will look over here and I'll say, hey, Jake, you can make a little 4 to 5 minute video of one of our hot boxes, show each of the parts, and then put it together in the description of a parts list from Amazon, right? He said yes.
Boy,
We'll put
yeah.
her on the YouTube this weekend.
Absolutely would love that.
And we go to the Habitat for Humanity Restore.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get $15.
Right.
So we literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hot boxes in here.
Wow.
Well,
wow.
you keep one by the dye station. That way you're not
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
You know. And
Yeah,
then when
no,
done-
that-
yeah.
I look forward to seeing that. That's going to be great.
And a kitchen
Yeah.
cabinet with the grating, put grating on the sides and then the hooks. You can
Yep.
put 20 holsters in one.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Mine's big enough for probably 2 holsters and then a couple other little miscellaneous things. So yeah, I definitely don't do anywhere near the production you guys do. But
What do you do in your belts? For
Well,
a finish. I know what we do, and I'd like to hear your opinion. I'll tell you what we do, but we're always looking to improve.
sure. Well, I do a lot of outdoorsman's belts. And when I mean that, you can call them gun belts. You can call them outdoorsman's belt. I have a little salesman sample here, 19 inches long. And so it's obviously 2-ply, machine sewed. And that's what I do a lot of these.
I like the
And-
double keepers.
Yeah, yeah. So on this one here, if I unscrew that, there's a piece of oil tan underneath there attached to the keeper. I can undo this screw and then slide that off.
Wow,
And,
wait, that is, hey, that's freaking brilliant. I have never seen that. I'm going to steal the living shit out of that.
Please, I've sold so much. Can't stand it.
Serious, brother.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
So you've got this piece of oil tan, and it's captured by the, you've stitched the other keeper back to it, and it's
Yeah,
captured by the Chicago screw.
Yeah.
Guys, this is liquid gold right here. I mean, maybe everybody else in the world knows this, but
I mean,
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it yet either, and the reason that I like it so much is I like giving people options. And I'm using a machinist square as the screwdriver here, so give me a second, I'll show. But
Hey,
yeah,
Jake, grab one of our oil tan belts. I have
Come on.
bought, have you seen those little pliers that have the rubber on them to supposedly help you with Chicago screws?
oh yeah,
They
yeah.
suck.
As a matter oh, do they? Yeah.
Well, the little rubber won't glue down. There's no way to really attach it well. So
and I think that rubber piece on there dries out.
if somebody comes up with all right, so wait. Look at that. Pull that son of a gun off there. Can you pull? Dude.
So what I do, George, is I usually have it probably 4 or 5 inches, and then I have holes in it, and I put little dots where the customer can perforate that himself or cut it off himself.
Really?
And then it just slides.
So you can put it wherever he wants it.
Well, with the floating keeper, the problem with those is they
They go
just
down.
fall off,
Yeah.
right? So with this concept, it just goes into that bottom keeper hole and then holds it. And then if, and then if the customer doesn't want that, he just takes it off. Or when I give them 4 or 5 inch option, depending on, some people like the belts super long because they're putting them over jackets, and then that way that this part here will, you know, will go through that keeper wherever ever they
That
need it.
is that is brilliant. That is brilliant. So, and what thickness are you building those?
8 ounce, usually 2 8 ounces, but they're
So you're building what I would call a monolithic gun belt, brother.
it's almost a 1/4 inch thick. The leather temper is not quite as hard, so it does take a little break in time. But
Are you using an import on that, or what are you using?
well, again, whenever I go to the trade shows, I just pick the leather out. I don't have a splitter, so I might buy 6 hides, so many 8 10 ounce, so many 5 6, 3 4, and whatever whatever I need for to hold me until the next trade show. So I have got to the point where I had to go to Tucson, a couple hours from me, and pick up their European single bends because I was completely out. Sorry,
George,
it's,
buy a splitter. I'll help find a splitter for you. You will hug my whole neck every day for the rest of your life because, dude, nothing's convenient for you out where you're at.
right,
Okay? So you buy one leather.
right.
Now you can buy, when you're buying 6 or 10 of the sides of that,
Yeah.
you're starting to get into some serious price breaks and you're making the rest of the leather that you need.
Yeah, that is so true, and I absolutely know what you're saying, but
When you
yeah,
come up here and you play with my splitter, I'm going to make you a believer. And
yeah,
see, I'm right next to everything, and I still have a splitter. So it's behind our stitcher. That is the most used tool in my shop.
yeah. And do you have a servo motor or do you have a hand crank?
It's actually, no, it's Cobra.
Oh,
They're class 14. The reason I bought it over any other one, I think arguably the Cowboy is the Randall style, the 20 inch with the big, adjust on each side. Maybe more adjustment there. But you forget things, and nothing is going to make you more of an upset person than you've got a big run going on. So I got a guy that or a client that she orders 150, 160 belts, but her belts, every one of them's got to be split, to
right.
to match whatever her top layer is, right? And life is grand until the minute you realize that your blade was sort of sharp and now it's dull, and
Yes.
your weights start floating. So
Yeah.
what we do is 3 times a year we change blades, and Cobra has a blade exchange. I think it's
I've
like
heard.
including shipping $100. They ship
Yeah.
you a blade, you send back the other one in the same box.
Yeah.
It's a time change each each time change, and then in the middle of the winter, because winter is always our busy time. Budgets are
Mm.
coming through, agencies are ordering, so that's that. So I think you might find that an advantage. And so tell your wife, don't beat me up because they're spendy. But also, so what do you do for a finish on your belts?
So it does vary. I am old school, so I like my
He's putting
wax.
can coat on it. Are you putting
Oh
can
no,
coat on it? Okay.
no. I think the only acrylic finish I have is um, Resolene. I use Atom Wax, but on my belts, my outdoor belts, I like a nice. So I use like, uh, oh, I've got them here. Hold on a second. So I use Snow Seal a lot. I use Skidmore's. This is just sample packs that I send with the product.
Really,
Um,
really, you send out Skidmores with
yep,
the product?
yep, a little 1 ounce jar, and it's a nice little thing when you throw that into a package. If somebody spends a little bit of money with you,
Do you buy
I
that
throw.
direct or
I bought them directly from Skidmore's in this size.
great?
Yeah, They are a little pricey, but if I don't even know what the breakdown is now. $3, two and a half, and then I throw in a couple of shearling pads, and it's a nice little touch.
And what are you selling a belt like that for?
I'm sorry.
What are you selling a belt like that for?
It varies on the length, but 125 is a good area.
We're about 119 on a Herman Oak. And you know what those strips cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Monolithic. But that is only up to size 44. Then 46, 48, and 50 is like $15 more. Because I just don't get enough hides that way.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, did you see when Eric and I were talking about turning the butt to the head on a double layer belt?
The butt to the head.
So we're cutting strips off of a cow, right?
Oh yeah.
So here's her neck and here's her butt. Here's her neck, here's her butt. Let's do this here. There we go. Her head's over here, her butt's over here, right? So that's strip number one. Let's say I'm going to put her buckle over here on the butt, okay?
Yes.
Because I'm going to let the head be a little bit more flexible, right? But now, as I go across that cow's body and I'm getting above that loin and then above that shoulder, I'm getting some fluctuation in cellular structure, okay? So I've got my head here. Was that, or is, anyway.
Right, and then
you swap the other one, thereby getting a level structure across the whole belt.
Right, yes.
I didn't know if you were doing that.
Yes, I do that. I think that's kind of standard operating procedures as far as belts are concerned, I think. And that's exactly what I do.
I don't know for sure if everybody's doing it, but I always try to remind people because it's a good practice to get it in. So every time you get a side of leather in, immediately cut 4 strips off of the top. Just cut them off.
Right.
Take full length if you want. I mean, the neck's going to be a little gummy, but with some fat tissue. But if you're going to do some carving or some dog collars, you glass slick down that neck leather, and it's beautiful to carve.
Yes. Yes.
And then you keep that through the bend and up into the coletta. You want to keep that for gun belts. Yeah. But you're building what I'd call a gun belt. If you brought your material, build a couple each way. Look at what happens to them when you hang weight on them and stuff like that. Okay.
Right.
So that's one of your belts. We're running long on time, so I don't get to go through a whole bunch of them. But
I do single plies, 10 to 12 ounce.
Got something to show you there, brother.
Oh yeah.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
That is.
I like that. Yep.
Okay.
That's thick.
This is an import. And 7-ish, 7-8. 5 ounce or so on an oil tan.
Right. Perfect.
Okay. All we do on this is we do just like what you were talking about. The when I'm building a belt out, Carnauba Mist, I think, is Angelus's Atom Wax version. And just like when we were in the military, we put our wax on, it gets stiff, and all of a sudden it slicks out.
Yep.
Because my client then can always take neutral shoe polish.
Yes.
And he can do his own. But the oil tan, these are the strips that we have on the site. And what we do for you, now these here have not even been trimmed. So did you see where I had the video of the new Mr. Smashy machine?
No, I don't think so.
We call it Mr. Smashy. It's the coolest thing you ever saw. Puts like 5 tons of pressure through polyurethane rollers. So when we glue this is you can take a glued piece of leather, it's not stitched, and you can make it break down, right?
Right.
It ain't going to happen with this.
Not with that press. Wow.
So we actually, in order to make these reasonable for you, I hated gluing and putting together double belts. I hate it, George. So when I really hate something, if I still got to make them, I start throwing money at it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
About $20,000 later. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're running we have a machine we had built for us. They were already on the market, but they were using a water-based glue, and we use Masters, the solvent-based glue.
Good stuff, yeah.
It took them a year to develop the machine so that it wouldn't blow up because they were afraid I was going to catch Jeff on fire. And I told him that I really didn't care if he caught on fire, but which the Italians, it freaked them out when I did that. So we brought that machine in, and it glues up a belt strip in 18 seconds.
Wow.
Then you have to run another one, okay?
Yeah.
And your hands are getting covered in glue the whole time.
Right.
So then it goes from there to Mr. Smashy, okay? And that's after about the 20, 30-minute mark. It goes to Mr. Smashy. It really gets smashed down hard. Then it goes to a standard R75, which is a combiner trimmer. Just like your strap cutter, the wheels,
right?
The knives, pull it through, trims it off to dead nuts 1.5 inches.
Wow.
So now I truck my little fanny back to the back of the shop with a whole bunch of belts. You know the Weaver belt edger, the Easy Edger?
Uh-huh.
That thing is, if it had hair, I'd marry it. We run a single one, and I pull it through there, right? And then flip it over, do it again. And then, depending on the customer, I either take the clicker and whack out the 5 holes in the the billet, or we do the chape end for them.
Right.
And with that equipment, that lets me sell you that belt strip when you're buying 3, 4, 5, whatever, for $16.
Wow. All right. Wow.
Now, if you want Herman Oak, you know what Herman Oak costs, brother.
Yeah. Wow.
You're paying $70 for a double air Herman Oak.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing, Georgia. Those are little things that I don't think about sometimes as a one-man shop. I still glue, and I lay paraffin paper in between my leathers so that way when I'm tacking them, this part doesn't get stuck. I'm doing that with each belt that I do. And that's wonderful.
Our whole goal, what I want us to be, is I know the things and the challenges that I had as a one-man shop. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then when Garrett and I partnered up, okay, and then we started bringing other people in, we were still building as a one-man shop. I had 3, 4 guys, each working as a one-man shop.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And we sat down there one day, and at that time we were building stuff for Renfests or something, Ren fairs, right? And Garrett and I sat down across the table from each other, and we started work at 8 o'clock in the morning. We broke for lunch, and at 7 o'clock that night we stopped after we turned out a good 10-hour day. And I looked, and there was like $530 worth of stuff retail. Mm. You can't make a living doing that.
Right.
So Garrett really started working on how we can become more effective. And then, with the big truck, as I got busy when COVID hit, he was literally being a one-man shop, but building as a full production outfit, which is why we started bringing equipment so it doesn't kill him, right?
It's super smart for your business motto. Absolutely.
So now our business model has evolved, not just as a maker, but to be a support to other makers. And we partner on people to whatever level they want. So we got guys that we glue up, just like you saw that belt strip, not even trimmed out.
Yep.
That's what we do. To
That's
every
crazy.
single level, all the way up to a completed belt.
Yeah.
But it's whatever they need at that moment in their lives.
Right.
So can I make you look like a 4-man shop?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
And that's our goal, and that's how our patterns work. That was by accident. Guys come into the shop to go to the boot camps that we have, and they're looking around the shop, and we're just a bunch of rednecks. I think I ran around the shop with the phone a week or so ago. Did you see our shop? Did I do that?
Yeah, I think you were showing your line finisher, and then
So
there's
not that much. We're just a bunch of rednecks out here having fun, cutting up dead cows.
Good looking working shop, though.
And they sat there, and guys were saying, well, how do you do this? And I said, well, that equipment over there is how we do that. And they said, well, why don't you sell us that stuff that you've got sitting there? Because, I have stacks of holsters clicked out. I said, I didn't think anybody'd want them. Yeah. And so that's how it started. On each of these items, is it's something we were already in production doing. Uh, uh, this is what we were doing to make a living. We weren't creating a product just to sell. It's
Right.
stuff we already made. People saying, "Hey, I'm interested." And I'm like, "Sure."
Well, I'm definitely taking advantage of that because, like I said, with my new ideas with the holsters, not custom holsters, I think I'm going to start going. I had bought all the patterns, not the whole kit, but just the guns that I are popular in my neck. But I'm going to go with click and ships with the snapbacks or caps or whatever they're called. I think that's a smart way for me to go. Then I build them. Everything's there. Mold them with the blue gun I got, put it in a nice bag, nice Viktor George logo, boom, sell it. That's what I want.
Everything you do that makes you a craftsman and artist, you're still doing.
Yes.
Think
It's
about
brilliant.
it as your three little, elves that you captured and threw in the basement, and you only throw beer to once in a while.
I, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, brother, I've
Yep.
had a lot of fun, man. I want knife sheaths is something that we've never really looked at.
Hmm.
And I want to build some, because we all have to have sanity projects around here where you're
Yeah.
doing something, different.
Right.
But I want to learn some of these skills, like that. Look at that belt you just showed me. That's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I got tired of all those floating loops just disappearing.
dude.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, that knife sheath, man. I would love if we had a chance to partner up. Maybe we can work and digitize some of your patterns, make some clicker dies out of it for some stuff, and
Yeah.
put some Viktor George product up on the sites if that interests you.
That sounds super exciting. And talking back again about EJ, as I'm showing him knife stuff, he's showing me holster stuff. I love this community. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, brother, we're
It
gonna
is.
wrap it up right now because we're already up there to like, holy smokes, almost an hour and a half.
Oh yeah.
So everybody, I had a fantastic time. George Cubic, Viktor George on the social media, and we're gonna get this puppy up, and everybody have a great day.